Okay, so our topic for today about conflict and crisis management in the context of education. No? Very, very interesting and challenging, no? Because of course, conflict and crisis are inevitable in any organization and educational institution. Are no exemption, no? Schools, colleges, and universities are dynamic environments where diverse individuals, students, teachers, administrators, and staff interact daily. Differences in perspective, possible in values, and expectation can lead to misunderstandings, no, disputes, and even crises. No? Effectively managing this conflict is essential to maintaining a productive and harmonious learning environment. No? Conflict and crisis management in education, of course, no, requires proactive strategies, no, communication skills, and a strong leadership approach to resolve disputes and ensure the continuity of learning. We need to accept the fact that one of the most common sources of conflict in educational institutions arises from misunderstanding between students and faculty, or faculty and administration, or student and staff, or faculty and staff, or the administration itself. Now, this complex may be related to grading, discipline, classroom policies, or personal interaction. If not addressed properly, such conflicts can escalate, leading to dissatisfaction. Ang another problem is demotivation or even legal complaints na mas mahirap kaharapin. So educators must be equipped with conflict
Dito na kaya?
resolution
Pia, dito ka na
strategies
sana. Para
such
baka
as
naman
active
seatbelt.
listening, mediation, and open communication to address these concerns constructively. Because
Ako
establishing
po.
a clear guidelines
Wait
and
natin pa.
fostering a culture of mutual respect
Okay na?
can also help mitigate potential dispute. And to give us more details about the topic, let us all welcome our presenter. Go
Tignan
ahead.
tayo. Kinakain, tapos pinaiyak.
Go ahead, presenter.
Ayan, hello. Hello po. Good afternoon po sa atin pong lahat, sa ating kay Doc Marmelo, sa ating pong mga classmate, teachers. Good afternoon po. Pasensya na po kanina medyo nalos po ako dahil po sa speaker ko rin po and hindi ko rin po alam yung pagkaka-line up po ng mga reporters. But since eto na po na ako na po ang magre-report, sana po ay maging participative po tayong lahat and sana po marami pa rin po tayong matutuhan. And ano lang din po, to give context lang din po sa aking sarili, I am Mr. Aaron J. Macalisang po. Currently po, wala pa po tayong sabihin nating leadership positions na experiences at more on yung maibibigay ko pong mga halimbawa ay yung ilan lang po sa aking mga karanasan bilang faculty advisor, student organization advisor, bilang team player din po ng aming pong department, at ilan pa po nating nabasa sa mga readings and researches po natin doon po sa ating topic. Since kasi po ang topic po natin is all about conflict and crisis management in the context of educational landscape. Siguro kailangan natin maintindihan dito na walang, sabi po nito kanina, maganda po yung kanyang introduction, yung kanyang rationale doon po sa ating magiging topic ngayon na wala kasing perfectong organization. Dahil walang perfectong mga members of the organization o yung mga
Ang
taong
dilim, B, ang
binubuo
dilim.
na walang perpektong mga taong binubuo ng mismong organization, is specifically doon kahit sa ang institution natin tignan, no, specifically doon sa educational institution, no, sa mga estudyante, sa mga faculties, administration, staff, stakeholders ng teaching personnel at iba pang binubuo ng isang institution. At dahil hindi sila, walang perfectong organization, valid at nature talaga, no, natural na magkaroon ng isang conflict o crisis, no, na kinakailangan ng isang effective and efficient, accountable, ah, na school management, no. So school management faces various challenges such as conflict and crisis that can impact doon sa isang school operations. That's why kailangan natin ng maayos na manager para ma-ensure yung maayos na operations at the same time empowering na leadership para tuloy-tuloy yung maayos na school performance. No, this includes despite disputes between teachers and students, the administration, and lack of funding and sudden emergencies that put the education system at risk. So, with that, kailangan ng isang effective management, no, and prompt response to these issues that are crucial to maintaining the quality of education and ensuring order in the school. At isa doon sa mga effective management na kinakailangan nating i-prepare tayong bilang mga susunod na mga at ilan no na mga school head leaders ng iba't ibang mga social institution natin. Isa doon yung kinakailangan nating malaman yung konsepto ng conflict management and crisis management, no? At mula doon sa iba't ibang nag-a-arise na conflict at crisis, paano natin siya bibigyan ng resolutions, no? Yung isang issues or paano natin siya i-address effectively, para makabalik tayo doon sa magandang momentum ng isang active na school institution or academic institution. So with that, pag-usapan po muna natin siguro yung concept ng conflict management. What is conflict management ba, no? At ano yung crisis management? Ano yung difference nilang dalawa? Paano siya nagma-manifest doon sa iba't iba sa pang-araw-araw na situation ng isang school or academic institution? Tapos ano yung mga effective na approaches or management ang gagawin natin depende sa iba't ibang situation. So pag-usapan po muna natin si conflict management. Pag sinabi po natin conflict management by its definition, it is refers to the process of addressing and resolving disputes or agreements in a structured and constructive manner. It involves strategies to minimize negative outcomes while promoting understanding and cooperation among the involved parties. Si conflict, siya yung isang problema sa isang institution na dahil natural siya na nag-exist, no, doon sa isang institution. And conflict management is paano siya i-address, no, na maaring makita natin sa iba't ibang mga academic actors, no. Conflict management also in schools is the process of resolving disagreements among students. Doon natin sila makikita, no? Sa estudyante, sa mga kaguruan, sa mga iba't ibang stakeholders and staff, sa mga binubuo ng administration, mga non-teaching personnels, no? Through negotiation, mediation, and communication to maintain a positive learning environment. Gaya po ng sinabi kanina ni Doc, ano? So, paano siya makikita, ano? For example, sa isang problema ng estudyante sa kanyang kapwa-estudyante, no? Maaring ang problema or conflict doon yung may dalawang estudyante ang nag-argue when it comes sa mga group presentation or group project or performance task na nagke-create ng problema doon sa loob ng isang classroom. Tayo, bilang mga subject teacher, instructors, professors, or faculty advisors ng isang klase, paano natin siya i-manage yung ganong mga pang-estudyanteng level na mga problema. And also, halimbawa naman kapag teacher to teacher yung conflict, no, saan sila most likely nagkakaroon ng problema, maaring doon sa mga grading policies doon sa mga estudyante, sa mga pagkakaiba ng kanilang teaching pedagogies, or mga personal or workplace related na mga conflict, no? And also sa administration, halimbawa mga complaints about sa school policies ng hindi lang parents, maaaring ng teachers o ng mga estudyante. So yun yung mga simpleng conflict na makikita natin mula doon sa iba't ibang sectors ng isang academic institution. So ano yung mga common sources pa ng mga conflict na nakikita natin? So halimbawa, ayan, interpersonal student conflicts, no? disputes related to group dynamics, peer competition, or instance of harassment which may affect students' academic engagement and social well-being. Siyempre, tayo bilang mga instructors and teachers ng mga bata, lagit lagi ang concern natin, paano mapatataas ang academic engagement and academic performance at magiging maayos yung social well-being ng kanyang mga learners or ng kanyang mga estudyante. At ang anumang mga bagay na nagki-create ng conflict sa mga ganong goals natin is something na kinakailangan nating i-manage as soon as possible or hangga't kaya ng ating jurisdiction. No, halimbawa sa mga interpersonal student conflicts, diyan natin makikita yung mga awayan sa or parang class competition, no? Halimbawa before nagkakaroon ng problema mga estudyante kasi very competitive ang classroom, nagpapataasan no na kailangan sila ang mas best, sila ang pinaka top one. So before ang existing na assessment kasi doon is very normative yung reference na ginagawa. No, kino-compare ang mga bata doon sa kapwa estudyante. No, paano siya nagkaroon ng management? Paano siya ni-resolve sa kasalukuyang context ng educational system natin? Ang nangyayari, no, ang resolution, gumamit na tayo ng from norm reference na assessment, nag-change into criterion reference. Ibig sabihin, nakaset na sa isang standard at kahit ilang mga estudyante ang kayang ma-meet yung ganong klase ng standard, edi lahat kayo pasok doon sa isang high-performing standard. So lahat kayo may honor, hindi kayo kino-compete from top 1 to 10. Kung kaya ninyo lahat pumasok doon sa with honors, with high honors, or Latin honors, no? Ganun yung naging resolve doon sa from normative reference into criterion reference na assessment. So ganun siya nagkaroon ng management, no? Next, alimbawa, meron ding issue from faculty to faculty conflict, no? Sa mga educators mismo. So, educators experience professional disagreements, interpersonal tensions, or competing interests within academic institution. Walang pinipili yung isang conflict, no? Kahit yung mga professionals, no, they experience this kind of disagreement kahit professional na sila. Kasi at the end of the day, tao pa din iyong mga yon. Hindi pa rin sila perfect. May nafi-feel pa rin silang mga bagay na problematic, no? At some point, no, some of them or more actually lahat tayo, no, may toxicity sa ating mga sarili na nakakaapekto doon sa workplace. Pero no, we can be less toxic by no ensuring effective conflict management doon sa ating mismong working environment ng mga faculty. Okay, so ano yung mga common conflict po nila? Number one, doon sa kanilang pedagogical divergence. Dahil malaya yung mga teachers sa kanilang iba't ibang teaching approaches, teaching method, teaching styles, strategies, and techniques, no? May mga pagkakataon na nako-question siya ng kapwa faculty kung effective ba yung ganong mga method o hindi. At kapag hindi siya no, nabibigyang pansin, nagtutuloy-tuloy yung ganong klaseng conflict at iyon minsan yung mga grassroots ng conflict ng mga faculty to faculty. No. Also, makikita din natin yung mga conflict sa workload disparity. Halimbawa, nakita ng isang faculty na parang yung isang faculty konti lang yung loads na ibinigay habang sa kanya dahil feeling niya lang pinag-iinteresan siya ng kanyang leaders at o kaya naman nakikita na mas marami siyang maayos sa performance na po-promote siya in terms of hindi sa salary and incentives pero doon sa dami ng trabaho na ibinibigay lalo sa kanya o kaya naman minsan may problema sa mismatch ng mga subjects na ibinibigay or dami ng mga administrative works na ipinapasa sa isang faculty na parang feeling ng faculty na yon hindi patas doon sa ibang mga faculty. So, maaring doon natin makita yung conflict. Also, meron din konsepto ng professional rivalry or professional jealousy, no, na parang yung isa na de-demote, na yung isa naman napopromote kahit for them hindi ganun ka high functioning yung isang faculty, no, maaring may mga ganun sa iba't ibang mga institution, 'di ba? Kasi nagkakaroon ng may existing ng mga padrino or palakasan system na parang sila lang ang nabibigyan ng chance na umattend ng mga seminars or mabigyan ng pagkakataon na maging speaker sa isang research conference and so on. So maraming mga examples yung professional rivalry na baka lahat tayo dito sa meeting may mga ganong klaseng iba't ibang experience. Sunod po yung communications deficiencies. Isa yan talaga doon sa pinaka problema ng isang organization kapag hindi talaga maayos yung proper communications, yung proper protocols, no? May mga nababypass na mga positions, nagke-create or leaders, nagke-create siya ng problema or conflict doon sa loob ng institution or organization. Maaring may makita rin tayong conflict doon sa governance and policies disputes, no? Halimbawa, yung faculty association, ang goal nila is to promote and protect the rights and welfare ng mga faculties. Pero according sa mga faculties, hindi nila nakikita as parang proactive yung kanilang faculty association. So, maaring may problema sila doon sa governance and policy na hindi na-address yung grassroots conflict ng mga teachers. Bagay na kailangan ma-address or matulungan ng isang faculty association, no? And at iba pang mga interwork related na mga strain, no? Next, sa mga student faculty, halimbawa may problema sa mga grading system, school management, okay? Or nawawalan na ng motivation or tiwala yung estudyante sa kanilang mga instructor. Sa anong mga dahilan? Maaring doon sa delivery and instruction, maaring sa presentation ng isang teacher, or maaring hindi transparent si teacher sa kanyang grading system, or maaring hindi maayos yung pag-organize ni teacher sa kanyang mga estudyante. Maaring doon magkaroon ng student-faculty conflict, no? Also, doon naman sa administrative policy and policy conflicts, saan siya nagkakaroon ng problema? Doon sa mga resistance to institutional reforms. Kapag may mga policies na ginagawa at feeling ng mga estudyante or faculty hindi beneficial or nakakatulong sa part nila yung isang administrative policy, at some point nagiging resistant sila, no? Maaring may problema din sa financial policies or governance decision na potentially causing dissatisfaction doon sa iba't ibang mga academic actors natin, from student, faculty, parents, non-teaching staffs, stakeholders, and so on, no? So anong kailangan gawin, no, doon sa mga nag-i-exist ng mga problemang 'yon? May iba't ibang mga conflict management approaches. Doon na papasok si conflict management. Paano i-address ng mga school leaders, tayo, or ng mga teachers, instructors, professors, yung mga nag-a-arise ng mga conflict doon sa isang institution. So may iba't ibang approaches kasi may iba't ibang situation na may specific approaches ang pinakakailangan gawin o pinaka mas effective and efficient gawin. Baka naman kasi yung isang problema sa isang institution, hindi naman talaga siya totally needed na kailangan pagtuunan at pag-aksayahan ng oras, nag-effort ka as a school leader ng matinding oras para dyan, sayang lang din yung effort, no? Kailangan din natin maintindihan kasi na ang isang conflict na nag-a-arise ay hindi one at a time. Pwedeng in worst case scenario, nangyayari siya ng sabay-sabay mula sa estudyante, teacher, saka administration. At kapag sabay-sabay siya, ano yung pinaka kinakailangan mong bigyan ng focus as the need arise, no? Ano yung parang kinakailangan minimal na lang yung pagpa-facilitate. So doon papasok yung ating strategic conflict management bilang isang school head leaders. Okay? Ng iba't ibang department or offices or ng mismong buong institutions. Okay? Meron siyang 5 iba't ibang conflict management approach. From low to high, no, may assertiveness na tinatawag at saka low to high na cooperativeness. So kapag mataas yung ating assertiveness, pero mababa yung ating cooperative na conflict management, po pwedeng andyan si competing, yung gagamitin nating approach. Kapag pareho namang mababa yung assertive na kailangan natin ibigay at saka cooperative, level of cooperative na ibigay, pa pwedeng okay naman siguro si avoiding approaches. No? Pero kapag ang isang issue ay very kailangan na ng mataas na cooperative, pero mababa lang yung ating assertiveness, no? Siguro kayang i-accommodate, no? Accommodating. Pero pag parehong kailangan ng mataas na assertive at saka cooperative, baka doon papasok si collaborating. At kapag pagsasama-samahin natin lahat, ano, yung parang pinaka-balance or pinaka-ideal, no? Baka fit na approach si compromising. Okay? So, sino-sino ba sila? So, puntahan po muna natin si avoidance approach. No? Ignoring or sidestepping conflict to prevent escalation, often used when the issue is minor or temporary. Kapag yung isang problema sa classroom or sa mismong institution, hindi naman ganun kalala, minor lang naman, hindi siya kailangang pag-aksayahan ng mabigat na focus at oras, no? Baka po pwedeng i-ignore lang natin, no? Para hindi na rin siguro mag-escalate yung isang problema. For example, sa isang student conflict, when a student ignores a classmate's, no, rude remarks during a group activity to prevent further agreement, ikaw na teacher, ang management natin is mag-observe and later talks privately with both students to address underlying issues, no? Kung kayang pag-usapan ng private yung away ng mga dalawang estudyante at hindi na kayang i-publicize o ipagbigay alam kaagad doon sa mga klase, gawin. Avoidance approach ang pinaka-effective na or inefficient na dapat nating gawin. Kasi tandaan natin, hindi lahat nga kailangan pagtuunan talaga ng oras, lalo na kapag minimal lang naman o minor lang naman yung issue. Okay? At saka, wag din tayo ma-feel na parang just because hindi pinagtuunan ng focus yung ganitang issue, igagaslight na natin yung sarili natin as co-leader na parang wala tayong accountability or hindi tayo naging responsible. It was just that sapat na yung avoidance approach sa mga ganitong kasimpleng mga problema. Okay? And for example pa, sa pag teacher-to-teacher conflict, when the two teachers have differing opinions on faculty meeting topic but choose not to argue during the meeting. So ikaw, as a department head, later i-arrange mo na lang yung discussion where both teachers can voice concern in a structured way. No? Another example from in an administrator conflict, a principal receives minor complaints about new grading policy but does not act immediately. So ano yung ating conflict management na gagawin? The administration waits for more feedback before making adjustment based on collective concerns, no? So hintayin muna natin, baka kung minor lang, di kusa naman siyang ma-address ng maayos without your talagang guidance as a school leader. Pero kapag very seryoso na pala siya, no, hindi na pala kailangan ng avoidance approach doon. Di pasok na tayo doon sa isa pang approach na kailangan nating gawin. Kasi meron ng mas mabigat na concern na pala siya. No, since nagbigay sila ng feedback or nung nagbigay na sila ng parang feedback, medyo nag-escalate na siya. So, doon papasok, no? Or yung isa sa mga approach, yung tinatawag nating accommodation approach. One party yields to other to maintain harmony, typically applied when the relationships are prioritized over individual interests. May mga pagkakataon na syempre, yung both parties may magkaibang o magkasalunghat na gustong mangyari. No? Baka naman, sa accommodation approach, kaya naman i-prioritize yung parang pinaka-in-need at no struggle yung mga individual interest, no, ng mga tao doon sa loob ng isang organization. For example, ng accommodating approach, no? Sa limbawa, sa student conflict, a student lets a classmate take the lead in a presentation to avoid further agreements. So yung management, so the teacher monitors the teamwork and later encourages the accommodating student to assert themselves next time. So pag teacher-to-teacher conflict, a teacher agrees to swap their exam supervision schedule with a colleague who has an emergency. So yung management doon, the school acknowledges the flexibility of accommodating teacher to ensure fairness and future arrangements. Sa administrator conflict, the administration grants teachers an extra day for submission of lesson plans despite a set deadline. So yung management doon, the principal reminds teachers of deadlines but allows flexibility when necessary, maintaining the balance between the rules and empathy. Okay? Next po tayo, yung accommodation approach. One party asserts dominance to achieve their goal. Often used when quick, decisive action is necessary. Tandaan natin, may mga pagkakataon talaga na kinakailangan natin mag-dominate minsan. No? As the need arise, kung sakaling talagang very quick at kinakailangan ng biglaang mga actions din, no? So doon papasok si competition approach, no? Or si competing approach, no? For example, sa students conflict, as students insist on using their preferred project topic despite the group's disagreement. So ikaw as a teacher, imimediate mo by having students vote on the topic or combine ideas for fairness. Pag teacher-to-teacher conflict, a teacher refuses to adjust their teaching schedule despite a colleague's request. So yung conflict management natin, yung department head steps in, explaining why schedule changes may be necessary and encouraging cooperation. Okay? Sa administrator, the principal strictly implements a no gadget policy despite opposition from students and some teachers. Kasi alimbawa, may mga pagkakataon kasi na kailangan talaga gamitin yung mga paggamit ng gadget, especially kapag for academic purposes or academic use, no? Pero anong management na gagawin, no? Si administration explains the policy's importance, listen to feedback, and considers adjustment if necessary. Okay? So, punta tayo doon sa pang-apat, yung compromising approach or compromise approach. Both parties make concessions to reach a mutual acceptable solution in order, for to balance competing interests, no? Parehong iko-compromise, finding middle ground, sorry, with mutual concessions. For example, student conflict, no? Parehong disagree sila kung sino yung unang magpe-present na group presenter, pero para mo-compromise, di mag-resolve na lang doon sa draw lots, no, para patas, no? Or doon sa yung management na pwedeng gawin diyan, no? Encourage compromise and highlights the importance of fairness in group work. Okay? Sa teacher-to-teacher conflict, merong dalawang teacher ang dahil kulang sa classroom, for example, no, kulang sa classroom yung kanilang klase pero kinakailangan pareho makapagturo, baka pwedeng maging solution dyan is magkaroon ng same time na but to agree the alternate days. Ganyan kasi problema sa amin, no, sa school namin. Dahil marami mga estudyante sa isang local na in-accommodate ng local college. Ang problema, ongoing pa lang yung pag-establish ng mga classrooms. Okay? Anong pinaka dapat gawin kapag ang gamit natin ay compromise approach, no? Baka po pwedeng kaysa magsabay-sabay doon sa loob ng classroom, baka po pwedeng mag-compromise yung dalawang teacher na maghahati ng classroom. O ikaw muna sa ganitong araw, next day ako naman, para hindi tayo sabay-sabay at mahirapan sa pagde-deliver ng instruction ng sabay. So yung management, the school formalize the arrangement, no, and ensures both teachers have equal access. So sa administrator conflict, the school wants to shorten lunch breaks but students oppose it. So a compromise is made to a shorten break slightly while extending dismissal time. So pwede yung ganun. Panghuli, yung collaborating approach, no? Ito yung pag-engage sa lahat ng mga stakeholders in open dialogue, no? Para makita natin na pareho, no? Na nami-meet yung desired nilang goal. May win-win situation. And to foster long-term cooperation and problem solving. Halimbawa, ang problema, um, may problema doon sa iba't ibang ideas ng mga estudyante na parang gusto nila lahat ng ideas nila ma-impose doon sa kanilang group activity. So ikaw as a teacher bilang facilitator, ang pinakamainam mong management o teaching approach na gagawin using this collaboration approach is brainstorming. Magpa-brainstorming ka doon sa mga bata. Baka yung mga bata mag-meet halfway. Kaya pala nilang pagsamasamahin lahat ng mga ideas nila. Pero kailangan lang talaga ng maayos na communication, no? Kapag teacher-to-teacher conflict, two teachers with different teaching methods combine their approaches to create an interactive learning. So, anong management dun? The department head supports their collaboration and encourages them to share successful strategies with colleagues. For example, syempre, nagtuturo rin po kasi ako sa mga estudyante ng mga eduk students sa college. At ang problema nila, ang reklamo nila kasi parang ang nangyari, yung ibang teacher puro daw pa-reporting, ganyan-ganyan. Tapos yung iba naman, mas preferred nila yung nagtuturo sa kanila as in essentialist na teacher. Ang naging sagot ko doon, sabi ko sa mga bata, hayaan nyo yung mga teachers ninyo o yung mga professors ninyo na gawin nila yung kanilang iba't ibang teaching method. Kayo bilang eduk students, kailangan ninyo maging observant. Hayaan ninyo or allow ninyo yung mga sarili ninyo mula doon sa iba't ibang teaching methods, approaches na ginagawa ng iba't ibang professors para na a-absorb ninyo at saka nade-develop ninyo yung iba't ibang teaching methods and approaches na dapat gawin sa magkakaibang situation. So, kumbaga, hayaan nila yung sarili nila na i-observe nila yung magkakaibang way ng teaching method ng mga teacher para iba't iba yung way, yung parang learning na natutuhan ng mga bata. So, anong pinakakailangan gawin? Mag-collaborate kayo sa isa't isa. Sanayin yung mga ganong method ng mga teacher, no? Habang at the same time, hindi rin nawawala yung sense of motivation ninyo na makinig at mag-aral. Okay? So, maaaring ganon. Halimbawa naman kapag administrative conflict, no? The school plans to change the grading system and it involves teachers and students in decision making, no? So the principal organizes meeting, gathers feedbacks, and implements a system that address concerns while maintaining academic standards. For example, sa case namin, sa university na pinapasukan ko or part-time ko, merong bagong policy si admin na tinatawag na zero-based grading system. Doon sa mga grading sheets, no, talagang sa zero-based grading, pag wala ka talagang output na napasa, zero ka talaga. For example, o kaya naman sa mga exam, kung wala kang i-take na exam for that day, pwede ka talagang ma-zero. Unlike sa ibang mga grading sheets kasi, for example, yung mga ECR from DepEd na kahit kulang ng activity yung bata, meron pa ring specific na minimum grade siyang makukuha. Unlike sa zero-based grading na pag wala ka talagang pinasa, zero ka talaga. So yung mga bata aaray. Doon sa ganong klaseng zero-based grading system, ano yung naging solution o ano yung collaborative approach ng administration? Nag-conduct muna ng tawag nito, consultations doon sa faculty mismo at saka doon sa mga estudyante before i-impose yung zero-based grading system. So doon natin na makikita yung collaboration approach na ginagawa ng isang conflict management. So yun yung iba't ibang example ng mga approaches kung paano natin gagawin, no, yung isang effective and efficient conflict management sa magkakaibang situation. Okay? Again, hindi lahat ay kailangan ng collaboration approach. Hindi lahat ay kailangan ng competition approach or compromise approach or accommodating approach. depende siya sa may situation. Ano yung pinaka mas effective na gawin? Okay? Next po, halimbawa doon sa nabasa kong research, conflict management and resolution strategies between teachers and school leaders in primary schools. So, sa ibang bansa po ito. Okay, lumalabas na commonly ang source of conflict pag institution related, halimbawa kulang sa teaching materials, demotivating yung condition sa mga faculty, mabagal yung process ng salary, o kaya naman mabagal yung promotion, or hindi maayos or kompleto yung mga facilities na kailangan. O kaya naman hindi maayos ang allocation of resources. Parang sa amin lang din sa isa kong local colleges naman na pinapasukan. Dahil local colleges, ang budget talaga ng institution ay nanggagaling sa local government. So with that, hindi siya kasing laki ng budget na nakukuha unlike sa mga state universities. Kapag local universities and college, LUC, dahil doon may problema sa allocation ng resources. Doon most likely nagkakaroon ng conflict. At dahil kulang ang resources, kulang ang basic facilities na napoproduce. Mainit ang classroom, hindi nalalagyan ng mga aircon, hindi nakakasabay sa matinding init ng panahon. At mabagal yung proseso ng salary dahil napakalayo ng school, ng LUC, doon sa mismong City Hall. At with that, nade-demotivate yung mga teachers, no? So, maaaring doon nagkakaroon doon nagmamaterialize yung isang conflict. Pag work-related, mababa yung low work satisfaction. At with that, may resistance sa additional work. Kasi ang nangyayari, no, sa ibang mga school, hindi ko naman sinasabing sa school ko din, pero ganun nga, no, na alam mo yon yung parang instead na tumataas yung salary and benefits kasi napopromote, ang napopromote, dumadami lang yung trabaho na binibigay na nagkukos o nagre-result ng mababang performance na rin kapag tinamad na rin o na-demotivate na rin yung mga pinagpasahan ng maraming additional workload. No? Maaaring magresulta siya sa low academic performance ng mga estudyante, poor working relationship, and poor attention to rules and regulation. Sa leadership related, nagkakaroon ng conflict sa mga unfavorable leadership style, poor communications, unfair decisions, misuse of finances, and padrino or palakasan system. At kapag itong mga conflict na ito nag-i-exist, syempre, nagre-require ito ng maayos na management. Doon papasok yung iba't ibang mga effective and efficient strategies na kailangan natin i-apply bilang future school head or future school leaders. Ano yung kinakailangan nating management na gawin para na kukonsider natin yung maayos na operations at the same time na empower yung mga tao through our effective leadership. Doon papasok yung ano bang leadership ang kailangan kong gawin. Transactional, operational, transformative, servant, and so on. So kapag hindi siya na-lead ng maayos or hindi siya na-address ng maayos, nag-create ito ng disputes. O yun yung outcomes niya, low school performance. Makikita doon sa absenteeism ng teachers. Hindi na active si teachers sa lahat ng activities and programs. Delayed na magpasa ng si teachers ng mga grades or ng mga administrative paperworks, no? May underachievement na sa school plan, hindi na meet yung mga 5-year plan na isinet nila kasi nga low na yung school performance, unfavorable work environment, saka nagkakaroon na ng conflict doon sa workers. Nawawala na ng tiwala yung mga constituents doon sa kanilang mga leaders, no? So yun maaari yung magiging resulta kapag hindi maayos ang management o conflict management na gagawin. Doon papasok yung halaga ng pagkakaroon natin ng conflict management na dapat effective, na dapat efficient, na dapat may active participation, na dapat accountable or may sense of accountability, na dapat may transparency, na dapat may rule of law na nangyayari doon sa ating management, no? Na dapat consensus oriented, no? Kino-consider lahat ng concerns ng mga constituent, ng mga estudyante faculties, non-teaching staff na dapat responsive, no? At na dapat merong equity and equality and so on. So yun yung mga iba't ibang strategic na management na pwede natin gawin na nagma-manifest into good governance. No? Kahit pa sabihin natin na sa educational landscape tayo, pwede rin nating i-apply yung mga iba't ibang indicators ng good governance at itong conflict management strategies and approaches. Okay? So, ano yung mga sinasuggest ng research na yon, no? Kailangan sa leadership may maayos na applying appropriate leadership styles para ma-address daw yung mga conflict na yon, di ba? Kailangan may punishing, forcing compromise, win-win decision, avoidance, and ignoring. All stakeholders take responsibility of negative and positive consequence. Minsan talaga, yung mga constituents, no, isa sa mga kailangan lang talaga nila, no, kahit mababa yung pasahod. Minsan may mga ganun kasi talagang mga teachers na kahit hindi ganun ka-competitive kumpara sa ibang mga institution, yung mga salary and benefits, basta nakikita lang nila na yung mga kasama nila sa trabaho, yung kanilang mga leaders, nakikita nilang responsible, accountable, no, at maayos yung ibinibigay ng management, minsan okay na sila doon. Minsan, no, hindi naman lahat, no. So, design wise technique to resolve smooth the situation, practicing accountability and transparency, discussion, giving genuine decision and sharing information, provide skill development trainings, expansion of resources. Yun yung mga parang magandang response doon sa mga conflict, no? Sa work related naman, achieving individuals work plan accordingly and being punctual at the workplace, handling stakeholders based on individual differences and behavior, stimulating competition, developing openness at the workplace, taking measurement based on the right rules and regulation, no? Yung iniiwasan yung pagpapadrino, no? Kasi may mga ganyan, no? Kailangan doon tayo sa mismong protocol, no, para hindi rin tayo nakaka-bypass. At kung nag-i-implement tayo ng rules and regulation, dapat applied sa lahat. Ano man ang positions, gaano man kataas o kababa, dapat ina-apply siya sa lahat, no? Para hindi nako-question yung inimpose nating regulation, para nagkakaroon pa rin ng sense of rule of law, no? Walang nakahihigit, no, doon sa batas, no. Hindi dapat ni-a-apply yung there is no there is parang for every law there is an exemption. Dapat, no, sinisikap na hindi maging ganoon yung maging quotation ng mga tao, ng mga constituents natin. No, doon sa institutional, kailangan merong, bringing peace and security at workplace, creating attractive work environment. Sa amin, hindi ko kasi siya naisama sa aking leadership, sa aking PowerPoint. Naganda kami ng research ng aking co-teacher about sa key result area ng faculty. Tapos yung topic namin is all about the challenges ng mga faculty sa isang local colleges na kung saan pinapasukan ko ngayon. At paano siya anong saan siya gagamitin? Basis for faculty professional development and enhancement. So lumalabas doon sa research namin na tanggap nila na ganun talaga pag LUC, tanggap nila na hindi competitive yung kanilang salary kumpara doon sa mga state university na nakakasama nila doon sa isang lugar. Pero sana ang concern na ang parang pinaka-need na lang nila, maayos na lang sana na management, maayos na sistema, no? Yun na lang yung pwede nilang maibigay, maayos sa pagpoproseso ng pasahod, hindi na delay. Yun na lang yung parang gusto nila sanang mangyari, kaso hindi mabagal yung pag-address doon to the point na nagre-resulta doon sa datos namin na mas mabilis yung dami ng mga faculty na nagre-resign, no. Actually, isa na nga po ako doon, papunta na rin ako sa ganung problema, no, sa kasamaang palad. At dahil mas marami ang faculty na nagre-resign, mas marami ulit yung mga bagong faculty ang kinakailangan i-hire. At kapag bago ang faculty, panibagong trainings na naman, saka tawag nito, seminars, ang kailangan na namang gawin dahil bago nga ulit sila doon sa institution. At kapag patuloy yung hindi mabilis na pag-address doon sa conflict management o doon sa isang conflict, no, maaaring magtuloy-tuloy yung ganong cycle sa school namin. So, yun yung parang binigay naming suggestions and recommendations, no. So, sana sa mga susunod na pagkakataon, makonsider nila yung aming research ng co-teacher ko, no. So, yun po yung konsepto natin doon ng conflict management. Pasok tayo sa crisis management. Ano yung crisis management? So, ang kinaibahan niya kay conflict management, biglaan kasi eh. Yung maaaring problemang si conflict management kasi may tendency na nabibuild up yung isang problema sa loob ng institution. Si crisis, biglaan na maaaring hindi siya kayang ma-foresee. Or kung kaya man siya ma-foresee, yun nga, biglaan pa rin. No? Crisis management is a process of mitigating a sudden or significant incident which can have a negative impact on a business or an educational institution. The goal is to limit the effect of the incident to keep the institution running smoothly and learn from the response to help with the future crisis. In schools, crisis management encompasses policies and actions taken to address emergencies such as natural disasters, security threats, ano pa ba? Public health crisis or major institutional disruptions. Saan natin nakikita yung crisis management ngayon? For example, sa ngayon, 'di ba? Matindi yung pagtaas ng heat index natin na nagreresulta doon sa DepEd na kinakailangan mag-postpone ng face-to-face classes. Kasi yun ang krisis eh. May banta doon sa public health ng mga bata at saka ng mga teachers kasi yung mga classroom hindi kaya makasabay, no, sa kasamang palad. Hindi kaya makasabay doon sa matinding init ng panahon. So doon papasok yung crisis management ng school, ng DepEd. No? At doon sa iba pang mga college institutions, no? For example, sa State University na pinapasukan ko, nag-resort na sila into pagka-cancel ng face-to-face classes na dati ang kanilang management strategies ay i-allow yung pagsusuot ng mga damit na hindi na mag-short or magsuot na panglaban doon sa init para males yung problema. Kaso hindi rin kinaya. So nag-change ulit sila ng kanilang decision as the need arise into face-to-face, into online classes. Okay? So, ganun po yung konsepto ng crisis management. No? Parang nangyari din before sa COVID. No? Or halimbawa, nagkaroon ng mga lindol. No? Biglang nagtigil ng klase. Nagkaroon ng sunog. No? Nagkaroon ng banta sa seguridad ng mga bata. Biglang lumakas ang ulan. Diba? Binantayan yung paglakas ng ulan. At nagkaroon ng matinding pagbaha sa locality ng school. So, kinakailangan mag-decide agad, may pasok o wala, para yung mga estudyante hindi naghihintay, yung mga teacher hindi naghihintay. No, hindi yung kinakailangan pa nila makipagsapalaran doon sa malakas na bagyo. No, paano kung biglang na-aksidente pa habang papunta ng school? Di ang nangyari, kinakailangan maging accountable at mayayari yung management ng school. So, kailangan ng effective crisis management in order to ensure the safety of students, faculty, and staffs while maintaining the integrity of educational operations. Kaya mahirap maging leader, no? Kaya mahirap maging manager. Kasi kailangan mo kasama to sa ating responsibilities. No, and maging accountable sa mga ganitong problema, crisis o conflict. So, prevention and preparedness, kinakailangan yon, establishing safety protocols, conducting drills and training staff for emergency response. Kailangan din ng immediate response, yun yung mga nature kasi ng crisis management eh. Prevention and preparedness, immediate response, implementing evacuation plans, crisis communication, and coordination with the authorities during an incident. And also recovery and continuity, providing psychological support, restoring school operations, and reassessing policies improvement in a future crisis response. No, ano yung pagkakaiba nilang dalawa? By definition, si conflict management, Siya yung disputes or problema within the school ng mga grupo ng mga individuals doon. Sa crisis management, siya yung pag-a-address sa biglaan na mga problema o threat or unexpected emergencies na pwedeng mag-disrupt or magpatigil ng isang school operations. Pero kinakailangan ng crisis management para makabalik ka agad dun sa momentum ng school operations. Yung nature nila, si conflict management kasi, dahil ongoing, nabibuild up siya na problema doon sa mismong organization. Si crisis, biglaan, sudden, urgent, na minsan potentially life-threatening. Okay? Example ni school conflict management, student-teacher disputes, faculty disagreements, administrative policy conflicts. Si crisis management, natural disaster, school violence, public health emergencies. Ano ang goal ni conflict management? To resolve, bigyan ng resolution through negotiation, mediation, and policy reinforcement. Si crisis management, i-prevent, immediate response, and recovery to restore normalcy. Makabalik agad, kaya ng sinabi ko kanina, makabalik sila kaagad doon sa momentum ng kanilang school operation. So, kinakailangan na lang iba't ibang effective prevention at urgent response as the need arise, no? At aning approaches, no? Andyan si accommodation, compromise, collaboration, avoidance kapag kay conflict management. Kapag kay crisis management, no, sunod tayo doon sa ano yung protocols when it comes sa emergency plans. No, ano yung dapat na crisis communication ang gawin and recovery efforts. So, yun po yung difference ni conflict and crisis management. Hindi siya one at a time na nangyayari. No? In a worst case scenario, pwedeng mangyari yan lahat sabay-sabay. At kapag yan lahat ay nangyari ng sabay-sabay, ikaw na school leader, school heads, paano natin siya i-manage? At anong management skills ang kailangan natin? That is why super relevant at significant ang pag-aaral ng conflict management and crisis management. Kailangan nating ma-identify ano yung pinaka-in-need para ma-consider natin as crisis at ano yung kinakailangan bigyan ng focus, ng time, na pag-usapan, no, para maugat yung grassroots problem doon sa loob ng institution. Kaya kailangan ng conflict management, no? That would be all, no? Sana po may natutuhan po tayo kahit konti, kahit no, sakto lang, no? And that would be all my that yun lang po yung aking presentation sa conflict and crisis management. Maraming salamat po sa pakikinig. Thank you so much po. Okay na to. Charot lang. Doc, okay na. Hello po. Doc, okay na po, Doc. Okay na to.
Sir, you're done? Sorry.
Yes po, Dok. Opo.
Okay, okay. Sorry. Actually, I'm on the transit na. Okay. So, as our presenter mentioned, uh, one of the most common sources of conflict in educational institution is stress from misunderstanding, as I mentioned, between students and faculty. And as our presenter mentioned, and these conflicts may be related to grading discipline, sabi nga, classroom policies, and personal interaction. If not addressed properly, such conflicts can escalate, leading to dissatisfaction, demotivation, or even legal complaints. Educators must be equipped with conflict resolution strategies such as active listening, mediation, and open communication to address these concerns constructively. Because establishing clear guidelines, and fostering a culture of mutual respect can also help mitigate potential disputes. In addition to interpersonal conflicts, crisis situations such as natural disasters, cyber threats, violence, or health emergencies can severely disrupt education. A school must have well-structured crisis management plans that include preparedness measures, emergency response protocols, and recovery strategies. For instance, as the past during the past COVID-19 pandemic, many schools had to rapidly transition to online learning, which highlighted the importance of flexibility and contingency planning in crisis management. So institutions that had pre-existing digital learning infrastructure and emergency communication system were better able to handle the transition. Class, educational institution also experience conflicts at the administrative level. No? Disagreements between school administrators, teachers, and governing bodies over policies, sometimes curriculum changes, or syempre yung budget allocation can hinder the smooth functioning of the instruction. So when leadership fails to manage this conflicts effectively, it can lead to low morale among faculty and staff, affecting the overall learning environment. No? School leaders must employ negotiation and problem-solving techniques to address these disputes, ensuring that decisions are made collaboratively and with the institution best interest in mind. So bullying and peer conflicts among students are another major challenges in school. Without proper intervention, these conflicts can lead to long-term psychological and emotional distress for our students. School must establish strict anti-bullying policies, counseling services, and conflict resolution program to create a safe and supportive environments for all our students. Encouraging peer mediation and restorative justice approaches can also help students develop essential conflict resolution skills, fostering a culture of empathy and understanding. Crisis communication also plays a crucial role in conflict and crisis management in education because when a crisis arises, timely and transparent communication with all stakeholders, students, parents, faculty, and the community is essential. Misinformation and lack of clarity can worsen the situation, leading to panic and confusion. So, school must have a designated crisis communication team responsible for disseminating accurate information, providing reassurance information, and getting or guiding principles, and even guiding people on necessary actions. Digital communications, tools such as email, social media, and learning management system can enhance the efficiency of our crisis response. Another crucial aspect, as I think, and I believe, of conflict in crisis management in education, in professional development for educators and administrator. Training program on conflict resolutions, emotional intelligence, and crisis response can equip staff with the skill necessary to handle challenging situation effectively. Schools should also encourage faculty and staff to engage and continuous learning about emerging challenges in education, such as cybersecurity threats and mental health crisis, to better prepare for potential conflicts and emergencies. So, to cut in short, conflict and crisis management in education requires a multifaceted approach involving communication, leadership, policy planning, implementation, and proactive crisis management planning. Educational institution must foster a culture of respect, inclusivity, and collaboration to minimize conflicts. No? Of course, no? And another thing is address the crisis efficiently. So, through equipping educators, administrators, and students with the necessary tools to handle conflicts constructively, our institution can ensure a stable and conducive learning environment that promotes academic success and personal growth. Okay, so I think that's it for this topic. May I request po kung sino pwede mag-take ng picture as our attendance for today? On the way lang ako sa Heritage Hotel. Sige po, pasuyo. Yung pwede mag-take ng picture. On the way po ako sa Heritage Hotel. Ano yung ano ko? Ah, awardan po ako ngayon ng Doctor of Philosophy in Artificial Intelligence and Data Science.
Oh, congrats, Doc.
Sige.
Congrats po, congrats.
Sige. Pa-take na lang ng picture, pa-post. Next meeting si Manarina po ang presenter. Okay? May nag-take na po ba ng pic?
Yes, Doc. Meron na po.
Pa-post na lang anak sa ating group. Salamat, ingat kayo lagi. Have a blessed Sunday ahead. God bless everyone.
God bless po, Doc. Bye po.
Bye po.
Bye po.
Si Sir Ian, bigyan ko na lang ng kanyang topic. Mamayang gabi. Sir Ian.
Hello po, Doc.